a hard video. So, hello everybody, welcome back. Today's video is going to be a little bit of a heavy one, but it's one I've been wanting to make. I said earlier this year that I wanted to open up a little bit more this year about my health journey and the things I've been on over the last decade plus, and one of the big parts of that is my time with my pediatrician. Now, I've talked about this briefly in various videos, but I've never sat down to talk about it because I've just never felt ready. But I think I am now. I'm not really going to edit this video. I haven't really done much prep for this video. I just want to say what I remember. Yeah. Because I remember when I was going through it, I felt so alone, and that nobody understood what I was going through because, well, no one did, and no one cared to learn. Yeah. And the people that were in my life weren't great people, which is why they're not here anymore. My hope with this video is if one person can watch it and feel less alone, then I want to make it. As hard as it's gonna be, I want to do it. So, we're gonna try. It's also interesting because I've never actually said this out loud. I've brought it up briefly like I have in videos, but I've never really had to talk about it because the people in my life were there when it all went down. So this is really my first time sitting and talking about it. So yeah. I think the worst, or the bad really started, hang on. There we go. I think the bad thing's coming in. Hold on. Okay, shut the door, baby. You gonna jump up on the bed? Or on my lap? Where you gonna go? What you gonna do? On the bed it is. So, the worst of everything started 10 years ago now, when I got my cancer diagnosis. If you watched my video about my skin cancer, I've talked about this, but she was very adamant that I don't get the biopsy. So if you haven't watched that video, I started showing symptoms of skin cancer when I would have been 12-ish, or almost 12, and my dermatologist wanted me to get a biopsy because if I just started showing symptoms, we could catch it really early and I wouldn't have to go through any chemo or anything. But my pediatrician wanted me to wait till I was 16. And at first, we thought that she was just looking out for me, I was really young, this was a big deal. but now looking back, it was like the first major red flag from her. Because we thought she was like, oh, well, you just started showing symptoms, it could be a coincidence, but in reality, it was a thing that is a very common theme for her, which was kids can't be that sick. A thing she actually said to me word for word. So, yeah. Luckily we did not listen to her, and I got my surgery, and we are here 10 years later. But yeah, that was the first big time that she started showing who she was. So, I should also say here in the video, I am not fully aware of the entirety of the damage she has done. She did a lot of damage, most of which I am still learning about to this day. And another major reason I wanted to make this video is now that I'm having doctors that actually care and are trying to get me diagnoses and things like that, a theme that keeps coming up is, well, it's really bad because it hasn't been found for so long. You've gone so long, it's really bad. You're gonna have to go through a lot more treatment than most people because it's been so long. And it was so long because she did nothing. So it's a very common theme, and because I haven't spoken about her in a video, I haven't felt comfortable explaining that, but it has been entirely just heartbreaking, soul-crushing to hear. This would not be as bad if she did something. Now, I'm not a therapist or a psychiatrist or anything like that, but based on my experience and things that I've read, so I'm not an expert, but based on what I've read, my experience, I believe I experienced something called medical neglect, where you have a doctor who actively neglects your health despite it being glaringly obvious they need to do something. So one of those big things was my weight. I don't know if I've ever said this before, but when I was in middle school, freshman high school, I was over 200 pounds. I think I got up to like 220, 225, something like that. I don't fully remember now, but it was very bad. And keep in mind, at this point, I was still doing sports and dance and being very active. Like, I played field hockey every day. I did dance every other day. Like, I should not have been the weight that I was for the amount of activity that I was doing. And also at this point, I was focusing on what I was eating, and I was making sure that I wasn't eating too much, so it also couldn't have been my eating. And I know this because my doctor's solution at the beginning of saying, hey, this is a problem, you need to work on this, said you need to focus on what you eat and exercise. And I was stuck in this cycle with her where it would be like, I'm really overweight and I can't lose weight. Well, you need to exercise and lose weight so you can lose weight and eat healthy foods. Well, I do that and it's not working. Well, you're not, you're lying. And I would just round and round and round every time I saw her. And it was very, very frustrating because I know now, a decent amount of that weight was from my wheat allergy. And had she started doing blood tests and trying to figure out, hey, you're actually doing the things that most people do to lose weight and it's not working, I would have had my wheat allergy diagnosed a lot sooner, which meant a lot less stress on me and my body. Which leads also to my mast cell diagnosis, which stems from being in such a high level of stress for a long period of time that your body doesn't really know how to cope with stress anymore. Like, we all know about the physical symptoms of stress, like your muscles can get tight, you feel it in your neck, you get a headache, those things that happen with stress. Well, my body doesn't really know how to do that anymore, so it just breaks out in hives because it doesn't know what to do. So, talking about this is so frustrating. Just remembering everything she did. So, also during that middle school time is when I started getting all of my joint pain. And it mainly started in my right knee. When I would run for field hockey, it would hurt really bad. And I didn't know why. Now, I actually did get this knee injured in a game. If you don't know field hockey, the ball that you play with is like entirely cement, basically. So getting hit with it hurts a lot, and I got hit with it like right in my knee. So I was really worried that it was a really bad injury. So when I asked, like, hey, can we look into this? Like, it still really hurts. It's been a few months. I'm still in quite a bit of pain. Like, can we look into this? She looked at me and said, you're fat. Of course you have joint pain. That's how it works. You need to lose weight. About a sports injury, she said, you're fat. And I will never forget that. And it was the first time I had to yell at a doctor to listen to me. Unfortunately, not the last, but the first. I was so angry because she had been telling me the same thing over and over again, and now that I finally had an actual injury for her to take seriously, she pulled the exact same thing, and I was not having it. I was so upset. I yelled at her. It's like, we need to look into this. I don't care if it's just an x-ray or what, but I am in pain. It has been months. This is not normal. I am not stupid. Like, we need to look into this. And so we did. I went and saw a specialist. They said nothing looks bad. Everything looks perfectly normal, which was good. And they sent me to physical therapy because it was a sports injury. They wanted to make sure that it was not a weakness or anything. And funnily enough, that physical therapy actually made things worse, which I'm not gonna put on her because we all were just looking at my knee. I later found out after she retired and moved on, or whatever she did, that the pain in my knee was actually coming from my hip and my ankle, because my ankle tilts too far left and my hip tilts too far right, and so the stress of that just compounded on my knee, so I get a lot of knee pain from that. So not much we could do in terms of physical therapy to help with that, but yeah. High school, I think I've said, was the worst of the worst of all of my symptoms. It is the worst I have ever felt. Physically, mentally, emotionally, I was a wreck. And she was such a huge part of that. because at this point I knew something was wrong. I knew you should not be in this much pain. Living should not hurt this much. Like, none of this makes sense for it to just be my weight. So me and my mom started researching on our own and realized that it might be food related. At first we thought it was like an intolerance or something. So we decided to do a diet, which should be doctor monitored, just for clarity. Basically you take out the food that you think is causing you to have an intolerance. So yeah, you take out the food that you think you're intolerant to for about a month, add it back in, and see how you feel. And that's when I kind of figured out, hey, I might have a gluten intolerance. And so, next appointment rolls around, and I bring this up, and she is, like, furious. She's like, you shouldn't do this without a doctor, this was stupid, you don't have a gluten intolerance because I say so. Again, she's never taken any blood from me, she has never run any sort of tests, she has never looked further into any of my concerns, and we are like 4 years into this at this point. So frustrating. So me and my mom decide to start eating more gluten-free for me, because clearly it made me feel better. I need a minute, hang on. I just remember at that time, might sound a bit dramatic, but this is how I was feeling. I didn't have a future plan. Like, I didn't know I would go to college. I didn't know I'd be doing this, or what jobs I wanted or anything like that, because this doctor refused to talk to me about anything I was going through, and the more I researched about my symptoms, the scarier things would look. I started getting this sinking feeling, I'm not gonna live long enough to graduate. And that gluten intolerance talk with her really set that fear on fire, basically. Because if something really was wrong and this was happening, the only way for me to get better is for me to almost die. And when you almost die, there's a potential that you actually will. And that's something that a lot of chronically ill and disabled people go through with doctors, is they won't listen to you until you are on the brink of death. Because that's when they care. Because then they were wrong. Because then it involves them more. Which sucks. And I wish it was not that way, but it is. And you have to push through sometimes, even if you don't want to. And I definitely did not want to. The peak point of all of this was March. Oh, hey, March. March 2019, I got the worst flu of my life. Which I know now is because I have autoimmune diseases, so when I get the flu or something like COVID or something, it's gonna hit me 10 times harder. Which is why I wear a mask out in public. And I was gone. Like, if I get that sick again, I'm going to the hospital. And I probably should have gone to the hospital, but I didn't. My dumb mistake, but I'm still here, thankfully. And how this involves her is my mom during this time had a business trip she needed to go on, and I had this really bad cough that came with this flu. And I just kept coughing and coughing and coughing, and it was really bad. It was like gross and wet and just disgusting. And so my mom decided, let's just go to the doctor, have her look at your lungs, make sure nothing bad's going on, so that when I go to this business trip, like, we can all have peace of mind, because I'm not going to be home. I said, okay. So she takes me to the doctor, and she never listened to my lungs. She never looked at, like, my throat. She never did anything. All she did was she saw me blow my nose once and went, "You don't blow your nose right. You need to blow your nose right." And proceeded to spend 20 minutes telling me that over and over again as I constantly kept blowing my nose. She would not explain to me how to blow my nose correctly, just that I was doing it wrong, and being that I was almost 17, I should know how to blow my nose, but clearly I didn't, to her standards. I do know how to blow my nose, for the record, but apparently not well enough for her. So again, never listened to my cough or my lungs or looked at my throat or anything. Just kept saying, "You don't know how to blow your nose. Tough luck." So we left. I felt pretty defeated, but my mom went on her business trip anyway, and I nosedived. I did not go to school. I was so sick. And when my mom got back, luckily this was like a short weekend one, so like she left Friday, she was back Monday. So she came back, immediately took me back to the doctor, and again had to basically yell at her and say, "Listen to her lungs, something is wrong." She was like, "Fine." She listens, and sure enough, I have pneumonia. And I had it when I first saw her, and who knows how long before then. And so I had to go on antibiotics, and I had pneumonia for like a month. Again, chronically ill, autoimmune. Maybe it won't take that long for a normal healthy person, but it took me a month to get over it. But that was like the final straw for me and my mom. Now luckily after this, she actually moved on. I don't know if she retired or just went to a new hospital, but she moved on, and a new doctor came in temporarily to look at patients, and thank the world. I am so happy, because that's when I saw my first gastrologist, my first allergist, my first basically everything, to understand, like, the hip thing I explained, start looking at my stomach and my allergies, and that was the start of the last 4 years of me figuring out my health. But that 6 to 8 year time period where she was my doctor wrecked me. I don't think I would be as sick as I am if she did her job, if she listened, if she looked at things, if she just, like, drew some blood just to see. And it is so frustrating to know that she did this to me. My camera stopped and I don't know why. Okay. It is so frustrating now, knowing the diagnoses I might have, knowing the things that I do have, and they all have that same thing of, you wouldn't have this had she done her job. Had she not neglected your health, you would be better. Which is just soul crushing. It's nice to know that I didn't ignore it, and I did my best to fight for it. But you can only fight so hard when the people who are meant to be the ones to help you won't listen. I don't really have a positive conclusion for the end of this video, because there is no positive conclusion, really. I'm sick. I will be sick for the rest of my life. And part of that is due to the way this woman treated me. Which sucks and is awful, but it's the truth. And I'm a very positive person, so I do look at it as I get to talk to all of you. It gives me something to fight for, something that makes me want to make these videos and talk to you guys about my health and be open. But I do not wish this on anybody. And if I could go back and force her to do tests, I would. Even if it meant that I couldn't do this, I probably would. But yeah. I'm gonna leave this video here. Feel free to leave any and all comments down below about your experience or anything you want to say about this video. I know it was long and it was rough to get through, so if you made it to the end, thank you for listening. You can follow me on social media, TikTok and Instagram. I promise it usually isn't this heavy. It's just how it is today. Like and subscribe for less heavy content in the future. And I will see you guys next week for a new video.